Hello, everyone. Welcome to an exciting conversation with Dana Chisnell from the Office of Customer Experience at DHS, a brand new office that has been stood up in response to the President's executive order on transforming federal customer experience and service delivery to rebuild trust in government. So this initiative is certainly huge. We've seen a lot of consternation over the government, our relationship with constituents, and what we've found is the Department of Homeland Security interacts probably the most with the public on a daily basis of any agency in the federal government. And you're probably thinking, well, how is that possible? But if you're traveling through TSA, if you're trying to do anything to go out of the country, if you're trying to cross a border, if you're trying to move goods across the border, whatever you're doing, DHS touches it in some way. So just last month, DHS stood up the directorate to manage customer experience. And they were extremely fortunate, and I say extremely, extremely fortunate to get Dana to agree to lead this not new effort, but this consolidated effort for the department. So welcome, Dana. We're so excited to talk with you today.
Thank you so much, Christina. I'm delighted to be here.
Oh, good. I'm so glad to hear that. So I don't know if many of you are familiar with Dana's work in the past, but she is truly a pioneer and thought leader in civic design. And she has worked in the public and private sector to talk about the customer experience and what impact that can have on our thoughts about government generally. So your experience with TSA, it may seem minutia to just deal with TSA, but it's an incredibly important experience for every person who goes through that security process. And so the Department of Homeland Security stood up this department, and we're looking at how you push human-centered design practices throughout government. So yes, Dana, tell us, just an introductory, how are you going to do all of that?
Well, fortunately, the new Customer Experience Directorate has tons of support all the way up and down the chain of command, and honestly, among all of the career federal partners who we work with every single day. These folks have been trying to do this for ages, some of them fighting in corners of the department for years. And now they have the support and the tools, and we're working on getting everybody the skills and capacity and capability so that everyone at DHS is making human-centered design decisions. So as you mentioned in your intro, we exist because the president created a customer experience related executive order. It's 14058 if you want to look it up. And this is really all about improving service delivery to engender trust in government by the public. We know those things go hand in hand. When things work well in getting services and benefits to people, that makes a more trustworthy service and a much more trustworthy government. So the priority number one for probably a year and a half, even before the directorate was stood up inside DHS HQ, we're housed in OCIO, by the way, has been supporting the components on their commitments on that executive order, which are some of them quite substantial. So we want to make sure that they have everything that they need to deliver on those promises. Also, as you mentioned, DHS interacts with millions of people a day. Lots of those are through TSA, but also through lots of other corners of daily life. And so we place people at the center of everything that we do across the department so we can deliver value and service and efficiency, which is exactly what the public should expect. So how we're going to do this, besides supporting the components on their executive order commitments, is really in a few specific ways. we are we're deeply focused on building capacity and building capability in every single person, operationalizing CX across the entire department. So while we expect to create some capacity by bringing in lots of specialists, you may have heard that we've been given a goal to bring in about 100 CX people across the department over the next year. We think it takes much more than just having specialists on staff who have technical expertise. We also want to make sure that everybody is making decisions that are that center the people that they are serving. And while lots of people think that way already, the mindset exists. There's some skill sets that we can also convey. So those are two prongs of how we're approaching this. But we're also looking at supporting cross-component efforts. So, for example, the Trusted Traveler programs, TSA PreCheck, and CBP Global Entry, they've long worked together to try to make a really great experience for domestic and international travelers. But it's been they've needed a little leadership to coordinate programs, and so we're working with both of those components to create a shared roadmap where we'll be able to help them implement a bunch of improvements under the covers and externally that should make it easier for families and individuals to enroll in those and to use those benefits. That's just one example, and there are a few others that are going on as well.
Well, we have been traveling a lot lately, and we actually see that at the airports. So, the programs are great, but if no one knows about them or no one can schedule an interview, it doesn't do you a lot of good. But we've seen that you're incorporating a lot more, like at the airports, at the point of entries, to help people get signed up. So it's already showing. You do have a lot of experience, in the private sector, but you also worked on U.S. citizenship and immigration services and working on their human-centered design. Can you talk to us a little bit about kind of what you've done there and how that's informing how you take this across the department?
Yeah, my first federal service was when I landed at USCIS in 2014 as in the first founding cohort of the U.S. Digital Service. With me on my team was Eric Heisen, who is now the CIO at DHS. And he was a product manager. I was a UX designer. And we were working with the team that created, was in the throes of a major digital transformation to create a system called Ellis, which processes almost all of the immigration benefits from deferred action for childhood arrivals to naturalization, and then tons of them in between, hundreds of them. When we arrived, USCIS was learning Agile and doing development at the same time, and learning what it would take to actually deliver software with programmers and other technical people co-located with the program, and like really learning a whole new way of working, including thinking about the needs of their users. Typically, I've seen this dozens of times in the private sector and in government, and you probably have seen this too from your experiences. That is, we get a bunch of business requirements. Those might be coming from laws or policies, and then we go translate that into programming code, and that ultimately looks like user interface, and people take training to learn how to use the interface, and then they do their best every day to use that interface, and the help desk gets very busy. Sometimes people need to be retrained. So when I came in, one of the first things that I realized is that there weren't any user experience designers present, and so I had to help the front end developers do a better job of design. And so this is one of the things that we promote generally, even now across the components, and that is this sort of idea around literacy, fluency, and mastery. So if we can get everybody in the department to a place where they can recognize what's going to work for people, what's not going to work for people, then we've taken the first step toward basic literacy around like how to be user-centered, how to be human-centered, how to be customer-centered. And then we get to a place where we have a shared vocabulary, so we can talk about methods and practices. And so everybody's sitting at a table, whether it's a virtual table like this one or a physical one in a meeting room, can have a conversation about how best to deliver those services by centering the customers, and then backing into what's the best way to do that? Is it a technology? Is it communication? Is it training? Is it a combination of those things and other things as well? And so then we get to mastery, where you have specialists and or people who have loads of experience and sort of just do it automatically. So we're hoping to, by relying on that sort of framework, move everybody in the department toward greater CX maturity than we saw at USCIS in 2014. 2014 was a long time ago. USCIS has advanced quite a lot. In fact, it might be the most mature of the components, although CVP will probably argue with me about this. But just in terms of sort of representation of user experience designers and service designers and product management, they by far have the highest count right now. And so going from zero, well, me in 2014 to around 80 now is a pretty impressive uptick.
Absolutely. Well, and since 2014, we also, kind of got through COVID. And I think COVID accelerated a lot of the interactions that happened online versus in person, and kind of forced people to reimagine much more quickly, perhaps, than the rate at which we were traveling.
No, I think that's right, because while USCIS and other components had already been working on digital transformations, for example, putting forms online and putting processes online, making more self-service for applicants and constituents available online, there was still a lot of requirements for, say, in-person interviews. And so figuring out how to do interviews and biometric collections and things like that, so that everyone could still be safe and healthy, people got super creative. And so, like, one thing the pandemic gave us was a chance to accelerate being much more flexible and much more virtual in those interactions, and still be secure in terms of systems, and also protect national security, doing due diligence on vetting and things like that. And so we couldn't have done that in 2014. DHS was using like Skype for Business, and people weren't working remotely. Telework was just not a thing. And so the advance in the 8 or 9 or almost 10 years since then is pretty remarkable.
Well, it was a forced advance, like we had to.
Yeah.
We couldn't let everything come to a screeching halt. So it was kind of this catalyst for all these exciting new things. And it's a great segue to talk about AI and what AI could mean for customer experience. I think part of the reason that your job is so huge, and that you, being as fabulous as you are from your background, which you can read at Homeland Security Today. As you're watching this interview, we have Dana's bio up as well, and also articles about this directorate and the effort. But you have come into the job at a time when truly AI is assisting or scaring, or
maybe both.
Yeah, being everything. But it's a great time to have this directorate stand up when you have all these new cool tools that you can also incorporate into customer experience. How are you kind of managing that challenge?
There's always new and emerging technology. There's a there's always the next, sometimes shiny thing that everybody wants to grab hold of. We're exploring what the options are for AI, and we're relying a lot on Eric Heisen's office and advisors who are part of the AI task force that the secretary created to help us know what direction the CIO thinks that AI is going to go at DHS. But like I say, we are exploring options. So for example, I think there are a lot of opportunities in customer service. And so there's some basic things that you could trust a large language model on, for example, on call center calls. Now, I would also argue that for sort of run-of-the-mill questions like where is my application in the process, or how is my case progressing, you should not have to call for that information. We should help you know that already. But in the meantime, I think there are some possibilities. Part of the responsibility of my team will be in exploring for specific instances, what kinds of problems does it actually solve? Does applying AI actually solve for our customers externally and for our personnel internally? And ethically and equitably, can we apply it so it actually makes sense and it does address real needs and not just like incorporating it because it's the new cool thing.
Well, on behalf of all of America, I hope that if you do incorporate AI, that it doesn't send you in those customer service loops where most of the time I think people do come to AI when they have a more unique problem. And so if you're in one of those, that can really play against the whole customer experience thing.
For sure. But I think there are ways to automate some processes and to use machine learning in some cases that are controlled and containable, that can speed up processing and make things more efficient and free up highly trained humans to address more complex situations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're all for that, I'm sure. So are there any challenges that you're running across that kind of surprised you? Or is everything kind of, oh yeah, been there, done that at USCIS?
The funny challenge really is like I kind of have to pinch myself every day at how great a job this is for a bunch of different reasons. I've been in user experience design and service design for many decades now. And for the UX people and service designers who will be listening to this, I feel you, right? Like every day you wonder, do people value what you do? It's not just sprinkling the pretty fairy dust over things. It is actually a very hard and challenging job. And in fact, when Eric approached me about the possibility of doing this job, of taking this position, I was hesitant because of that long kind of experience. And he assured me that was not going to be the struggle, that he understood the value of customer centering, of human-centered design, that the deputy secretary did, that the secretary did, all the way up to the president. And my earlier experience at USCIS had showed me that the career feds obviously understood the value because they saw the good outcomes. And so the challenges now really are like, how far can we go? How quickly? And how do we build momentum for this mindset and skill set, and give people the kinds of tools that they need to keep the work going? We're a team of around 40 or 45 people right now in DHS HQ. We're asking the components also to stand up a formalized, centralized CX function in their organizations. And I'm just in this lucky position where everybody is excited about doing this work. And the hard parts, the challenging parts are, how do we do this when the budget cycle is, we're making proposals for 25 and 26 at this point, and when it takes many months to bring people through the hiring process, and procurements for working with industry on contracts can take a year. And so we're learning a lot and having some breakthroughs, and but the support and the enthusiasm makes every day so much better and so much easier, and makes the goal seem much more attainable.
Well, that's great to hear. I love hearing people say that they like working at the department. That is so positive. You mentioned, though, the golden words for some of our listeners. Certainly, we represent quite a bit of industry in addition to a lot of government. And you previously worked on making procurement more agile. And we're finding that, of course, the Homeland Security Today and Government Technology and Services Coalition acquired the FitGov Summit last year. And the FitGov Summit is focused on advancing or governing advanced technology before it governs us. And that's all well and good, but with ChatGPT and a lot of these things evolving at the speed of light, procurement cannot keep up at that rate. So what is your advice or your experience that you've had that will help us to make sure that the procurement and the things you need to advance customer experience are evolving as quickly as you are?
Yeah, when I talk about CXing all the things, I'm also talking about acquisitions and procurement, right? And so we've got to make sure that there are requirements and criteria in every acquisition, in every procurement that brings the human-centeredness in, and that it can easily be evaluated. And so that will also be a part of any acquisition that includes artificial intelligence or machine learning or large language models or robotic automation. And so we are starting to work very closely with our procurements office and with partners across the components to make sure that is true. And so we're looking at this from the point of view of is the acquisition just about the technology, or is the technology an acquisition in the service of serving customers?
Absolutely. That's excellent. We're also going to be talking with the Chief Procurement Officer in September at DHS to just
Excellent.
talk a little bit more about AI and his plans. And so we're very focused on this. We're trying to help inform about where the rubber meets the road, which is, taking the buzzword and making it reality, and seeing where those two things meet. Because like you said, you mentioned the word shiny, and often things are shiny and people go running off. But I think the AI piece is kind of here to stay. So how we govern that as we bring it in is really critical. So
yeah, governance is definitely going to be critical. I think implementation also. So I can see a lot of phased rollouts and pilot experiment projects that are limited and that we can learn from quickly without harming people, without harming the mission, and using those to learn about how best to incorporate.
Excellent. Well, I have one last question, and then I want to open it up for you to share anything you'd like our readers, viewers to understand and hear. And that is just that if you have kind of a priority list of your rollout across DHS, I mean, it's a huge agency. Everyone talks about the 22 components brought together, blah, blah, blah. But do you have priority of kind of who you're working with the most? I know that the high impact ones include, immigration, customs and border protection, FEMA, TSA. Do you have it kind of in a rollout phase, or how are you moving forward?
Yeah, so we do spend a lot of time and attention and partnering with TSA, FEMA, USCIS, and CBP, especially on their designated services on the executive order. But there are pockets of other things where we are also assisting as well. We're working closely with them on hiring, for example, to make sure that they can bring in the most qualified human-centered designers and product managers and other folks who have CX skill sets, including digital service skill sets. But we are also really tight with the non-HISP operating components and working closely with them to up their game on customer centeredness, all the way from the Secret Service to the Coast Guard, CISA, and ICE. We've done some exciting work with ICE over the last few months related to services that they're putting on their website for non-citizens who need to make sure that they make it to their check-ins, for example. So we're working in 4 large areas. One is around experience design and delivery. So some of those are component facing, where we're working on those cross-component kinds of longer term efforts, but also internally. So looking at HRIT, for example, and services around accessibility and reasonable accommodation, along with our partners in the Civil Rights and Civil Liberties Office. Then we are standing up a new division around accessibility and language access, where we'll also have a plain language practice, as well as making sure that services are available in all the languages that our customers need, and that we're meeting the accessibility and equity needs that our customers have, both internally and externally. We also have a division around building community internally to DHS, like a community of practice and steering committee, but also externally with partners in NGOs and geographic communities, so we can understand how the department is serving them on the ground for reals. And we're creating a field advisory committee council to connect field operations and all of the components to us in HQ, so we can understand better what their experience is like on the ground serving the public every day. And finally, and not least, we have a capacity and capabilities division that works strategically around building experiential training at all different levels, from basic practice to how to run a program that is customer-centered, and all of our strategic operations to make sure that we are measuring progress of CX maturity overall in the department, as well as within specific services and programs. This is a big challenge. There's no one CX metric to rule them all. And so we're doing a lot of discovery there, but we're also standing up some research operations to ensure that everybody across the department can spend as much time as they need to learn directly from their customers, so they can listen to them and observe what they're doing in terms of work, or what they're trying to do when they apply for benefits and services from the department. And so getting all of that stuff in place while we are also working on the other priorities is a really fun challenge. And fortunately, my team is incredible, and they have embraced this challenge in a way that I just am delighted with.
Well, it's kind of one of the coolest jobs in government right now.
I'm glad you think so.
I do, because you're reimagining the citizen's experience with government. And
yeah.
Yeah, you're on that edge where, you know, you do make a difference. Unfortunately, your difference is if it's a bad experience, people bitch about it for like ever. But if it's a good experience, that is kind of what they expect. So unfortunately, you don't get as many kudos as you should. But I do like seeing when you walk through TSA and have the little smiley face rate thing right on the spot. I love giving the green smiley face when I go through and know the importance of that. So I think it is really exciting, but as I said in the beginning, huge job, lady, huge job.
We're going to
So,
make we're going to make as much progress as we can possibly make.
well, you're doing an amazing job. If you have any last words, please share with the audience. But otherwise, you know, you are truly doing an extraordinary thing for the nation, and that sounds epic. But you are kind of doing some epic work, and so we want to thank you on behalf of HS Today for spending some time with us today. And we will certainly be calling you again to, you know, keep talking to us and let us know your challenges and how you're doing. And we're here to support. And I'm sure the American people will love the fact that things will be easier and more customer focused.
I certainly hope so. Yes, let's keep doing this. Let's have another one of these conversations again soon so we can talk about progress. I would like to leave everybody with a couple of things to think about that my team has been embracing as a kind of vision. I got a question from Deputy Secretary Tien just before he retired about how will we know that we are being successful in this customer experience design effort. And what I told him then, and I am happy to say here, is we'll know that we've done a good job when everybody across the department, industry included, our industry partners are crucial to this, are whenever there's a decision to make, asking two questions. And the first question is, what is the outcome that we want for the public? And the second is, what is the experience that we want the public to have in reaching that outcome? And that changes the calculus around being customer-centered from being technology-centered. Technology is enabling. We need that. There's no question about that. And all the processes that go with implementing that. But when you start asking, what's the outcome that we want for people and what's the experience that we want them to have, that shifts the conversation a bit.
I love that. I would even add, what experience would I want?
Yeah.
Ultimately, you know, like I said, I deal with those little chat bots all day long. And so I got lots to share about what I consider good customer service. So thank you again. Thank you for putting people first. And thank you for putting the citizen at the center of what you're doing. So we appreciate it and do look forward to seeing you succeed. And if there's any way we can assist, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you all for joining us. We hope to have Dana come visit us in person soon. So we'll be following up with that. Otherwise, have a terrific day. And thank you for being loyal Homeland Security Today followers. Thanks so much for your time, Ms. Chisnell.
It's been my honor and privilege.